of Buffalo and Erie County and on Women United, we would like to thank you for attending today's panel, Buffalo Woman Breaking Barriers, and also Happy Women's History Month. My name is Mary Kate Loftus. I'm Senior Vice President and Director of Digital Banking at M&T Bank. I'm also the co-chair of Women United, along with Laura Dolan from Bank of America. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you today, our Women United members, our amazing moderator and panelists, and all of those of you who are Women United members or new members to come. Women United is a group of United Way supporters that are committed to uplifting our communities and the individuals within the community. We do this through volunteerism, philanthropy, and leadership. Sometimes it's packing baby supplies up, other times it's facilitating pitch events, or even just rolling up our sleeves and helping children in our community get their Christmas presents. We're here to be able to lend a hand in many different ways. We love to inspire change and work together across the Buffalo and Erie County community. Let me tell you a little bit about what Women United is and why it's important to you. So it's not just a way to be able to make a difference in our community, but it's also a way to connect like-minded women. We could go on and on talking about the great experiences that many of us have had connecting with these really powerful, inspiring women across the community. I know I personally have had a wonderful time connecting, whether it's through Gateway to Golf, our Western New York Girls and Sports initiatives, and other events that really make a difference. After the event, we are going to send you a follow-up email that'll tell you a little bit more about Women United. And if you aren't already a member, we highly encourage you to sign up and join in. We'd like to thank all of the sponsors who helped make today's event possible. Our platinum sponsor is Ingram Micro. Our gold sponsor is M&T Bank. Our silver sponsors are the Buffalo Bills, Geico, Independent Health, National Fuel. And our bronze sponsors are Marianne Colson and Catherine Mahoney, Merrill Lynch Wealth Management, Nixon Peabody, and Tops Friendly Markets. United Way connects Women United members to facilitate important conversations about promoting equity and equality in our communities and empowerment for women. That's why we're so excited to have this discussion today with amazing female leaders who are speaking. I hope that you leave as inspired as I know I am and the many members of the Women United Advisory Board. And so now I would like to open us up and introduce our moderator for today's panel, Dr. Catherine Conway-Turner. Dr. Conway-Turner is the president of SUNY Buffalo State, where her vision to become Buffalo's college through engagement, excellence, and social responsibility has been embraced and recognized nationally. She lends her time and talent to many boards and committees in the community, but we're especially proud to have her as vice chair of the United Way of Buffalo and Erie County Board of Directors and as a Women United member. Thank you so much, Dr. Conway-Turner, for joining us today. And now I'm going to pass it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Mary Kate, and welcome everyone. And thank you so much for joining us for our really important panel today. I'm honored to represent the United Way of Buffalo and Erie County and its amazing group of female philanthropic women and Women United. I'm also honored to moderate a discussion with such an empowering, diverse group of panelists. These are women who have broken barriers in their careers and are showing other women and girls that they can do anything they set their minds to. They're inspiring change for females, and they really inspire their industries in amazing ways. I thank you, Maureen Atho, Ashley Holder, and Honorable April Baskin for sharing your personal experiences and your perspectives with our attendees today. I'd like to introduce each of our panelists, and then we can dive right into questions. If you have any questions you'd like answered, please leave them in the Q&A box, and we will all do our best to answer all of them. We'll also dedicate some time at the end for those questions. First, I'd like to introduce Maureen Atho. Maureen has always lived in Western New York. She was hired at Moog in 1984 as an internal auditor, and over the next several years progressed through various positions in the company's financial organization. In 2008, Maureen moved into the role of General Manager of Space and Defense Business. In 2015, she was named President of Moog's Space and Defense Group. Maureen is also the executive sponsor of Moog's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion efforts. Welcome, Maureen.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Ashley Holder. Ashley is the first African-American woman sports anchor and reporter working regularly on a local network TV affiliate in Western New York. Her impressive resume includes working for CBS Sports Network and WCCB Charlotte, where she covered the Charlotte Hornets and the Carolina Panthers. We can now catch Ashley on our local channel 2. Ashley is newer to Buffalo, and we're happy to have her as a part of our community. And finally, I'd like to introduce the Honorable April Baskin, who in November 2017 was elected to represent District 2 of the Erie County Legislature. Passionate about community development for social change, April was immediately selected to serve her caucus as a majority leader and chaired the Public Safety, Minority and Women Business Enterprise, and Economic Development Committees. In spring of 2019, she was elevated to the position of chairperson of the full legislature, being named the youngest chairperson in Erie County's legislative history. April will be joining us a little bit later. She will be popping into the Zoom before you know it. So let's just get started on a really great conversation. And we'll get started really with Maureen and I. And Maureen, if you might want to answer this question and think with us aloud, as a female leader who has been, what has been the most significant barrier in your career that you've faced?
Thank you, Dr. Conway Turner. I'd have to say I probably fell victim to something that many of us do, which is the stereotypes and unconscious bias that can exist in the workplace. And maybe I could share some specifics with you to illustrate what that looked like and felt like. It comes in all different forms too. It can be, gender stereotypes, or stereotypes about intellect or talent or other assumptions that people make about us. So for me, when I first came into Moog as a financial professional, I was a CPA, and immediately labeled the bean counter. And that was the box that I was put in, which of course, you understand that as a young person, that's what I came in and I was trained to do. But that label really followed me for a very long time, I think, quite unfairly. Another example I can give you was I had wanted to be promoted, and I went for a job called cost engineer. And cost engineer job was you had to understand the technical, some of the technical intricacies of the product that Moog made, as well as the financial side of it. And when I was interviewing for this job, I was told, well, we've never had a cost engineer before who was a woman, and so maybe we'll give you a try. And it was, I think the assumption there was I wouldn't be able to do the technical part of that job. So it was a risk to allow me, a woman, to do that. And then one last example. So I was promoted to lead the facility, the largest Space and Defense Group facility that Moog has here in East Aurora. And it was a great opportunity for me to run a manufacturing operation. So I'd left my financial bean counter hat behind me, and I was doing something brand new. And one of the executives commented to me that I was the mom of the plant. And so he saw me in a very maternalistic way. Again, kind of that stereotype and I mean, he meant nothing by it either. I know that he actually meant it as a compliment, but it's that, he had that in his head. And so those are examples of, they can be real barriers when they keep you from advancing. And I think they probably did keep me from advancing maybe more. I should have probably advanced a little more quickly if it hadn't been for those biases.
Thank you. And Ashley, are you on the Zoom now?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that.
Okay, it was wonderful having you. Welcome, welcome. We were just reflecting on what's been the significant barriers in you moving into your career.
Yeah, I would have to say, for me, especially coming to Buffalo, one of the biggest things that they've been able to write about is that I've been the first African-American woman sports anchor and reporter here on local television. So that's been a very big barrier for me to break down, because this is actually not the first place that has been my role. That's actually happened almost at every station that I've been at, for the most part. So I feel with women of color, especially in sports, you don't see people that look like me as much, and that's kind of tough. So it's hard to find those mentors and to know how to maneuver and go through things and stuff like that. So being that I'm the first, you want to make sure that you're doing everything correct and you're being a great role model and things like that. Sorry, excuse me. So it's tough, but it's very rewarding, because it's nice that people can look up to you or see that they can do the same thing too, or hey, there's people that look like me that can do these things and stuff like that. So that's probably been the biggest. And it's at the same time, it's different too, because it's 2021, right? So you would think it's not going to take that long for a first African American to be in this spot or this spot. So it's very different. Not only are you a female in sports, you also are a person of color, which makes everything, I don't want to say harder, but it brings its different set of challenges. So that's probably been the biggest barrier that I've been able to break down at those stations, of just taking those roles of as a Black woman in sports.
Mhm. Well, you both sort of mentioned in your response the lack of models as you were moving into your career. So did you have to look outside of your fields for models, or did did you find a model for either of you to follow? And we'll start with you, Maureen. Any models that you used as you moved forward?
Yeah, well, I guess all of the models I had were the guys. There were no female, there were very few female employees when I got here in 1984. There were zero female managers or executives. So it was truly charting my own path and observing. So this is what you do. You listen and you observe and you pull in. I want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. And be yourself. I think that's super important, super key.
And you, Ashley, any models that you were using since?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have so many different models that I've been able to look up to. I mean, naturally, when you're in sports, you're watching Sports Center all day, every day, or you're watching NFL Countdown and things like that. I don't just look at women of color to who to look up to. You want to look at to someone that just does a great job as a woman in this field and is thriving and surviving really as it is. So I would say some of the people I've looked up to has been like Maria Taylor. She's very big right now on ESPN. If you're into sports, she's hosting everything. She's sidelining. So Doris Burke, she's been around for forever. Pam Oliver, I mean, what a legend. So there's a bunch of people that I've definitely looked up to, but like as Maureen said, I definitely wanted to try and make it to make my own path too. So so it's not the same as everybody else's, because everybody doesn't go through the same exact thing. So kind of a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. So then what were the key factors that allowed you both to get into your position that you're currently in? So what are the factors that, really helped you navigate the path? Maureen?
I'll go. So I think it's first and foremost belief in myself, right? And it was believing that if I worked hard and I stayed true to myself and my values, and was as we just said, both Ashley and myself, we stayed true to ourselves. That I could succeed, not that I would necessarily, but that I could. And there's a little bit of humbleness or modesty that you have to have too. And I think about Coach McDermott always says hungry and humble, but I think that's really that's got to be in there. You can't think so much of yourself that people don't like braggy people. I don't think. So you've got to be yourself, be honest. The second was others who believed in me. So it's super important to have allies, especially when you're not in a very diverse environment. And I was blessed with allies who had belief in me and saw what I could do and helped me to navigate, to bigger and better things. And the third thing is patience. This takes time. And it takes time for those allies to, trust you and gain trust in you. So it doesn't happen overnight. It's sort of this recipe that you got to put together, and it takes time.
Mhm. And Ashley.
Yeah, I'll say for me, I probably have a couple of the ones that Maureen has at the same time. I would definitely say constructive criticism, because as you're in my field, you are going to get a lot of criticism. You're going to work with a lot of different mentors and your bosses and things like that. And sometimes, hey, the world we are in right now, Twitter trolls and everything like that, they will tell you if they do not like something. So I love constructive criticism. I love knowing how I can be better at something. Just like she was just quoting Sean McDermott, you want to be humble in what you do, but you want to know that you can always be better. I've been on TV for 5+ years now, but I know at year 8 or year 9, I want to be a lot better than what I am now. I want to have different skill sets and things like that. And I probably have to say as well as you're going to, keep, I want to say hard work, but you have to keep going, because you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a bunch of yeses. And I learned that pretty quick. I think I thought when I graduated, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go work in New York City, or I'm going to go straight to LA and stuff like that. I'm like, no, you're going to go work in St. Joseph, Missouri, outside of Kansas City is where I ended up first. So it's very interesting. Like, even now, as you're taking more jobs and moving up and things like that, you just have to be ready that if it's a no, it's okay. That's just not where you're supposed to be. It's the next one will come, and that may be where you're supposed to be. And I think for me, that's always the hardest, because when you plan your life out and you want it to go the way that you have planned it out, and you realize that just doesn't happen. And I even now to this day still try and accept that and maneuver and go through that, because I'm like, okay, if I write this plan down, it needs to go A, B, C, D. It's going to go A, E, Z, Y. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I planned for. So I think those are the biggest things. And as Maureen said too, just believing in yourself and confidence, because if you don't believe in it, then how is anybody else going to believe in you to hire you for that position or to keep you in this role? So that's for sure. And then having mentors, because those are the people that push you when you're down. I credit a lot of my mentors for the reason why I'm still in TV, because I've wanted to give up a lot, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I want to pick up on a little bit that was said earlier about bragging and also believing in yourself. So those are kind of two different pieces. And so I believe Maureen says, nobody wants anyone to hear you brag on yourself, but you have to also be able to present yourself as you're moving forward. So could you talk a little bit about how you and your personality navigate that space of presenting yourself in ways that you feel good about letting people know your skills? And Ashley, we'll start with you.
I'm sorry, you said the way exactly presenting yourself.
How you present your skills without bragging, because Maureen was saying nobody wants to hear anybody brag. So
sure.
How do you do that? How do you present yourself?
Yeah. Well, I will ask this, is it more so to like co-workers or kind of like just in general?
When you want to get a position,
yeah. Oh, for sure. So I think for me, I'm just the type of person that comes in things. I don't come in there as I know it all, because I definitely don't feel like I do. I always come in there as a person that wants to learn. Because if you're not a person that wants to learn, how long are you going to last in any type of position? It doesn't matter what it is, right? You want to be versatile. I go in there as a person that wants to really not just help myself, but help the company that I'm with, because we're all one at the end of the day. It's not just Ashley Holder, it's Channel 2. So how can I make sure that Channel 2 is, put out in the right light, and we're covering everything, and we're on everything. So I think for me, that's the biggest thing as I go in there is humble, wanting to know more, wanting to gain more knowledge. I look at the people that I'm working with. My sports director, Adam Benini. I mean, he's been in Buffalo for I don't know how long. I think since like the 90s or something. And he's very, very intelligent, very knowledgeable. And that you look at that and you look at, wow, I can learn a lot from this guy. You know, he's been around way more than I, you know, he's older than me. He's been around in this position a lot more, knows a lot more people. So for me, I just go in there as a person that's a sponge. I want to soak up every single thing and take everything I possibly can out of that position. And I feel like when you go in there as that someone that really wants to learn and wants to be, it's a team. It's not then I have felt that puts you above a lot of people that are like, well, I can do this or I can do this. I can carry the whole thing, whether this person is there or not. You know, I've always felt like that's what puts you above other people.
Very good, very good. And I do believe that the Honorable April Baskin has joined us. April, are you here?
I am here. I can see everyone. Can everyone not see me?
Now we can see you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was
welcome,
here
welcome.
soaking up the jewels from this holder. Yeah. So greetings, everyone. Thank you for being patient with me. I was doing a panel discussion for young women attending First Amendment First Vote, and I departed early to join you. So thank you for being patient.
Well, you know, that sounds like a very important conversation as well. And we're so happy that you could join us. We were sort of reflecting on key factors that have allowed you to get to the position you're currently in. And so since you haven't had a chance to reflect on that, perhaps we could start there with you. You know, what are those factors that allowed you to get into your position that you're currently in? Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a great question. I think that a lot of people would say that I really did not take the traditional route into governing and politics. I certainly did not ever anticipate entering a career in public service or elected office. I did not ever take not one political science class, let alone get a degree in political science or law. And I never had an opportunity to intern for an assembly member or spend a summer in Albany where a lot of my colleagues had, because they had public service and elected office was something that was probably a part of their life plan. I was just someone who really, really enjoyed helping people. And I have always been a person who does not like to see injustice or inequity. My mother always says that I was the kid who said, that's not fair, that's not fair. And I am definitely the elected official that is constantly saying, hey, that's not fair. It's not like seeing people uncomfortable. It rips my heart out, especially when the circumstances in which they are uncomfortable are societal barriers or systemic racism or just things that have been embedded in our country and in our culture that have created an environment for them to find it difficult to find upward mobility. That makes me irate, and I always wanted to do something about it. So I always worked in the arts. I have a degree in theater. I worked in education. I had some learning disabilities growing up. So when I was able to get a hold of that, I got into helping college students figure out ways in which they would be able to learn their best learning styles in order to achieve their degree. Because at one point in time, I was a college dropout. And through my own personal life experiences, figuring out a way to still move forward caused me to want to oftentimes reach back and help others figure out ways in which they can move forward as well. And one day an opportunity came up for an open seat in county government. I was recruited by some friends. I said no about 18 times, which is common for women. I'm a single mother. I am someone who does not like to necessarily be embarrassed or put myself out there in front of crowds and crowds of people. The idea of representing a district of 83,000 people sounded extremely overwhelming. But the question was posed, April, if not you, then who? If there's no one in the legislature who's under the age of 40, who is African American, who is a woman, who is a single mother, who's actually had experiences in going down to the RAF building and applying for social services and needing a child care stipend and needing to get food stamps, then who to represent the people in your neighborhood? After thinking about that for a while, I said, yeah, maybe it should be me. I ran it in a very highly contested race against 4 other men, and I came out on top, and it's been one of the greatest privileges of my life.
Wonderful. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And I love that, if not you, who? I think that we all probably have said that at one time or the other to ourselves. Absolutely. Well, studies show that women are paid less than men. We all know that on this panel. And United Way's Alice research also finds that households headed by women are more likely to be living in financial hardship. So what suggestions do any of you have for policies or practices that can help working women in our community that are really struggling? And April, why don't we start with you? I think this is really something probably you think about a lot.
It is, and it's actually a very appropriate question, Dr. Turner, for Equal Pay Day. Happy Equal Pay Day, ladies. I definitely fight for the cause of gender parity on a constant basis. In short, we need legislation that is going to outline requirements where women just have to be considered by what they bring to the table and their skill set, and not necessarily the previous job that they have, because we know historically women just are paid less. So if we're constantly looking at positions where people want to know what you made before, or considering salary requirements based on some type of preset structure and not exactly the skills that you bring to the table, we're always going to have a wage gap. I think that we need legislation that supports caregivers, if not free childcare for women of certain economic status, then definitely more subsidies. I think that we need to more after school and summer programming. This is the single mom of me speaking. And these things can be done through policy change, or they can be done through legislation. But if we want to see women have more of an equal playing field, we have to consider the fact that just traditionally women are going to naturally end up being more than likely the caretakers in their household. And if they want to go to work and still care for these babies, we're going to have to create a society in which they can do so. So making sure that there are opportunities for women to have safe places to keep their children. Anybody that's a mama knows you don't want to leave your baby with just anybody. Nobody's going for that. And so setting up systems, policies, legislation that allows for women to have the option and affordability to be able to make sure that their households are strong, that their children are safe, will definitely create more space for them to be more aggressive in the workforce.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's really, really thoughtful. Mary Kay, did you want to jump in on this as we're discussing this topic?
I would love to, Dr. Conway Turner. I was thinking, as soon as April started talking about the love mothers have for their children, all I could think was, it's such a gift. There's so many resources that are free, available online for financial literacy. So whether you go, pretty much every bank offers them. You can also go and connect with, your local branch, local banker. Go online and just research. The more you know, the better you're going to be able to do to help yourself and your family. And it's never too young for your children. Start helping them learn so that they can be able to make decisions as they grow.
Absolutely. And Ashley, you want to weigh in a bit with some
Yeah,
suggestions?
I think it's different. For me, I don't have kids yet, but it's crazy because I think of I'm going to have kids. Okay, I need to have kids by 35 or by 32 or something like that. It's like I have to sit there and think about when I can do it, because as April was saying, is you almost feel like your career not would go down, but it's going to be halted, or it's going to have to be adjusted, because I don't know who's going to be able to watch my child for how long. I'm by myself. I'm not in a state where I have family. You have to think about all those things. And it would be nice to have more help and, different policies that could help with that. I'm not going to lie. I'm not big into everything of the legislators and the legislatives and stuff like that goes into that. When it comes to politics, I'm not there. I'm off sports. That's all I can help you with. But what I would think with equal pay too is, I think we should normalize women feeling confident asking for more. And I don't think that we can do that. I mean, I know I wouldn't lie. I'm kind of like that, where I'm like, I don't know if I would go in there and say, well, let me get more, I think I'd have to, go to my guy agent to say, hey, maybe you talk to them. And I wish it could be normalized that we're not scared to ask for more and ask for what we deserve, because a guy would do that and they wouldn't be, disrespected or, what's so penalized in some type of way for doing so. And one thing I also noticed too that was mentioned too is just more benefits that them putting treatments for infertility or fertility and things like that. There's a lot of benefits that insurances that necessarily don't cover those type of things. And I've had a friend that started a new job, and there was actually a line for infertility and fertilities, or however which word it is on there, it was different. I've never seen that. I've always heard like you're coming out of a lot of money if you're a woman that deals with that and stuff like that, and that's different, right? So I was like, wow, more insurances should be open to having that covered, or some type of amount covered for women that have to go through that, because unfortunately that's not something that a man has to deal with. That's just my spiel. Yeah. That's my last one.
And Maureen, you want to add something into suggestions in this space?
Sure. Well, what Ashley said too about the stereotype of a woman going in to ask for a raise is seen as aggressive or not viewed as favorably as a man. So yeah, we got to get past that for sure. And I'm happy to say the population here. So where can I make a difference? It's right here at this very large company I work at. We have 3,000 people on the campus in East Aurora. We have 13,000 employees around the world. And I periodically sit down with my folks in HR and take a look through the payroll. And we talk about equity, inequity, and we talk about how, are the women in our company making the same as the men who are doing the same job. And I feel like we've really made great strides there. So I feel really proud about that. And so it's a little way, but it's making a big difference for some of our women employees to be able to do that.
And I would also add that not only is it asking for more money for a raise, but sometimes women are hesitant to take the leap to ask for the promotion or to take the promotion. And that oftentimes the statistics shows that women feel they have to have all of the characteristics. If they name 30 different things, then you don't put yourself forward until you have all 30. Whereas the guy next to you will have 5 of them and he'll say, I can do it. And so, we've got to get a bit more courageous about putting ourselves out there, and if we have the energy and the passion, we can get it done. And so I think it's not just the money that can help us, but also, taking that leap of faith to that next position as well. So very good, very good. Well, the theme for International Women's Day is inspiring change. So how would you like to help inspire change for females in your specific industry? So what kind of, change would you inspire? Who wants to go first? April smiling. Okay, April, jump in and inspire us.
Oh, inspiring change in young women or just women in general. There's just so many caveats that I can touch on. I think authenticity is extremely important, and being relatable. Sometimes women have so much, I believe, that we feel responsible to uphold to gain respect. I find myself in chairing the legislature at times, making sure that I'm not being too passionate about an item because it could be perceived as being emotional, or and I want to come away from that pressure. I want to be authentically April in every moment and not feel apologetic about it. And if I could do anything, I would inspire young women and women of all ages to truly embrace who they truly are. I think we live in a society where women tend to be very hard on themselves. I would inspire women to be kinder to themselves. We always want to lose weight. We always want to learn more. We always want to point out the things that we need to work harder to get better at. And that's great, but how much time do we spend highlighting the things that we do well, the things that we have naturally been blessed to be able to do without much effort, and just natural born skills? Highlight those, excel in those. When I jumped in on this panel discussion, there was a little bit of talk about bragging on yourself. I'm so sorry that I missed that portion of it, because that we do need to do more of that. And of course, we need to be intact so that we do not offend anyone, or give off an impression where we are not being as inviting as we would like to be in building bridges and healthy relationships. But I am a woman of faith, and I tend to believe that everything that I have and everything that I've been able to do is because of the people that are around me. So when I celebrate myself, I know that I'm celebrating those shoulders that I stand on, and I don't apologize for that at all. I'm constantly mentioning that I am the youngest person in history to chair the Erie County Legislature. And that's not because I'm tooting my own horn. That's because young people need to be put in positions of power, because there's a perspective that they have that needs to be shared. And that's a major deal. And there should be people and women that come after me that are younger, that even have positions in high regard in government, because that helps. So inspiring change, I believe it needs to really start with self, and letting people know that it's okay to be you. Don't apologize for being you. You don't owe anyone explanations for who you are. As long as you are constantly on a self-improvement journey, you are progressing in a way that is going to be beneficial for the people around you. Celebrate yourself, celebrate your accomplishments. That's the things that I want to pour into women on International Women's Day. Love yourself. Be nice to yourself.
Sounds great. Sounds like a wonderful message. And Maureen, what would you tell? How would you inspire other women?
Well, that's really tough to follow. Everything that April said was that's so right to the heart of it. But I think so. Here's where I do have to be braggy. What is the few things that I can do to inspire women in the aerospace industry? And the aerospace industry, for those who do not know, has a long history of being white middle-aged men exclusively. And when I joined the company, it was that way. I'm really happy to say it is changing. The face of aerospace and defense is changing in this country in a huge way. 4 of the 5 largest aerospace prime companies have female CEOs right now, which is pretty amazing. So my obligations are to be visible and talk about my path and the possibilities for the women that are joining our company. Because right now the aerospace industry is dying to get more people in. And if we don't attract and retain young women who want to be part of it, we're all gonna die off here. So I have an obligation to be visible, obligation to guarantee a bias-free workplace as best I can. And that's why I am leading the diversity initiative at Moog. And recruiting. So once you get beyond the 4 walls here, recruiting, making sure that the intern class, we have a big intern class that we employ every summer, make sure that we have a great diverse class of interns coming in every year. And then I also think getting out in the community, we try to get some of our engineers out to some of the schools. It seems to me that if you capture the imagination of a girl in elementary school, maybe by middle school, I think you can still get them on a STEM path that might get them interested in aerospace. I think if you get to high school, you might have gone too far, but we're trying to do that as well with the school kids.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Great advice. And Ashley, how would you inspire change in your industry?
Yeah, I really don't know how to follow up April, as Maureen said, so I really don't have much. I was like yes to everything that she was saying, but definitely piggyback off what she said. Definitely helping the next I do have to bring into it all the time, just being a Black woman in sports, it's very difficult. And as Maureen kind of said, kind of you have this type of what aerospace is kind of like, right? With sports, unfortunately, it's very white blondes, right? So I feel like women of color can get very discouraged very quick because a lot of places were looked at as quotas, right? There has to be some type of diversity. They're like, how are you covering all these athletes? And there's no Black women there. There's no anything. That's a big thing. And I feel like that can weigh on a person a lot. And I would want my change to be for women is just to know that, like April said, that you are enough. You know, you don't always have to consistently question yourself or wonder, do I need to do this? Do I need to do more of that? You know, being a woman is hard. Being a woman of color, to me, you add another layer on top of that. Because it makes you scared to ask questions, not ask questions, but, you know, put your ideas out there, because then they want to say, well, you're being a little aggressive, like, we don't like it. Or, you know, if they say no, I would always encourage a woman to just like she said, to be yourself, you know, always stick up for yourself and speak up for yourself. Don't make someone else feel like you're being aggressive. Like she said, being authentic to yourself and knowing that you're enough, because as a woman, you're, especially in this, for us millennials, you can go online and you can depict yourself in 50 different ways and be like, I got to lose weight. You know what, let me take these braids out, or, you know, all these things. Like, it's crazy because this is the first time in my career ever that I have worn braids on air. And that was a huge deal for me to do that here. One, because I was like, I do not want to do my hair anymore. But two, because I've never done it, it's looked so frowned upon. But ever since the pandemic, and then you're dealing with, let's just be honest, George Floyd and these other situations, companies are being very, very tight with what they're going to say to people. And it's just, it's crazy when you think you have to look at so much as your hair, like scared to put braids in your hair. You know what I mean? So I would just encourage, I would hope that change could be where you can just be yourself. And if that's what it is, then that's what you are. And hopefully that can be something that's accepted, that where women don't always feel like they have to be so nervous to change things about themselves or feel obligated to change things about themselves. And I don't know if that ever will happen, but I hope one day that it does, because it's exhausting.
Yeah, it can be exhausting. Absolutely. I really want to follow up on one point you mentioned about finding your voice and, and speaking your truth. It's often common experience that women have that they're in a meeting and that they don't feel heard. They feel like people are not actually hearing what they said. And that they either maybe pass you over when you make a comment or don't take you seriously as you make a comment, So have you ever had that experience? And if so, how do you handle it from your various positions? So people just sort of not hearing the voice, that wonderful voice that Ashley spoke to, that we have, just somehow them missing our voice. So
I'll kind of start on that. I'll say for me, I'm a little different though, because I'm from Long Island, New York. So I speak up regardless. Like, that's just me as a person. Like, I'm not quiet. I'm not like timid or shy. That's not my personality whatsoever. So I'm throwing my ideas out there. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm like, okay, we don't like this one. All right, what's the next one? All right, what's the next one? I'm the type of person that's just going to keep going at it. And I think that's what you have to do when you don't feel heard. You have to find you almost have to make them hear you in some type of way. Now, it's unfortunate because they look at a female at a table and there's a bunch of men. The guy might have said the same thing that the female said, but yet they heard him and not you. But unfortunately, like with the way that how the world is and some things are happening like that, you just have to keep trucking forward. You have to figure out a way for your voice to be heard, because if you get down in that, then you're not going to be heard whatsoever. So you have to find a way to be heard, if that makes sense. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And let's see, April, what about you? Has that ever happened to you, and how do you handle it?
Yes, it happens to me quite regularly. And I have not always figured out how to handle it, to be quite honest and transparent. I pick and choose my battles, but I have made a decision that things like being overlooked or saying something and then a male coming behind me and saying again, like the example that Ashley gave, that it's going to always be addressed. And I have to, everything, there is time and place. And so I have learned to be sensitive to environments and my relationships with people. And there's just no, magical recipe to handle that. But I will say for myself, decided that when I feel that my voice is being stifled, and being in a position where I have the responsibility of not just the 83,000 constituents in my own district, but chairing a body of 10 other colleagues who also have 83,000 people. I mean, there's nearly 1 million people in Erie County that we're charged to serve. That I cannot afford to hold the position as chairwoman and have my voice not be heard. That is counterproductive to chairing the body. And so there's a recent time where it has happened, and I have addressed it in the room, and I have said, I'm sorry, I am speaking. I'm sorry, I'd like to repeat myself. Pause, what's going on, and just make sure that what you said in a respectful way, because we don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but my voice needs to be heard. I'm also working on the phrase, I am sorry, because I am not a sorry person or a sorry woman. And so my apology is for the fact that you want to move forward and I'm not going to let you because I have something to say. And other times I have addressed it offline respectfully. I have addressed it one-on-one respectfully, but I've made a decision in recent that my voice will no longer go unheard. There are too many women in my lineage, too many of my ancestors, too many women walking up and down the streets of the east and west side of Buffalo who have spent a lifetime of not being heard. And for me to have the privilege to be in a position where I am supposed to be utilizing my voice to serve the greater good of the public, I am very confident in the fact that I have a responsibility to be heard, because I am not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the people who elected me to speak for them. So if I'm quiet, I am silencing all of them. That is irresponsible of someone in government. So pick and choose your battles. But I would encourage all women to address it and figure out the environment and figure out a way to address it and to say what it is that you have to say. Thanks.
Right. Sounds good. And Maureen, has it ever happened to you, and how do you handle it?
Well, it has happened to me, but I think I have nothing really to add to April again, because it is, you choose your time and your place, depending on the circumstances. I also have oftentimes taken it offline. If it is a sort of an offline conversation, if there was one particular participant in a meeting or something that I really felt like I needed to straighten it out with, I'll do that after the fact. If, however, it is a super important element and it is a team, it's impacting the effectiveness of the team, that's the time that you say, time out, I'd like to take a pause. I've got something I've got to say. So it's knowing, it's kind of tricky knowing which way to go, but you get a sense for it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, those are all really, really terrific ways to handle a difficult situation that we all experience still yet in 2021. And I guess we'll be still fighting that battle for a while longer. We've now gotten to a place that it's time to take some questions from our audience in general and some questions that were submitted before. And so I want to start off with a question for Ashley. And the question is, what advice would you give the next generation of female leaders?
I would think, I'd have to say kind of a little bit what we've already said, is just being yourself and knowing that you're enough. Because again, if you don't have confidence in yourself and you're consistently tearing yourself down, I don't know how you're going to get through anything that you do in life, whether it's TV, politics, or working at Wegmans. Like, it's going to be a struggle regardless. So I think that would be the biggest advice that I would give. And also keep going. Like I said, you're going to get a lot of no's, and you just have to believe in yourself. Again, that's where that confidence comes in. and keep trucking forward. And if it's not that, then it's something else. If it's not that, then it's something else. That's we're all, if something happens bad where you don't get a job, the world is not over. You have to pick yourself up. You can give yourself a couple of minutes and cry it out and do what you need to do, but then you have to pick yourself back up. I think that's the biggest thing, is just believing in yourself and knowing that you can do it. Because again, if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. Because if you don't, why would the person hiring you want to hire you if you don't even believe in yourself, or you're consistently up and down? Which there's times you might feel down, or you're a little shaky about something, and that's natural. That's just being human. That's emotions. But you have to know that you're able to do it. That's the biggest thing. And I feel like as us women, we're always consistently questioning ourselves more than men. And I don't understand why we need to question ourselves just because our body parts are different than theirs.
Thank you. That's really great. And there are many assumptions that people make about women that can be problematic. So April, what's the most persistent assumption that people make about women that we really need to confront? You must be muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. I think it's hard to sum it up into something that's generalized, because so many women lead different lives. And I think there are just so many assumptions out there about us as a gender in general. It's probably an assumption that is reflective of our lifestyle. And I will say, for me, there is, I make a joke. I think there's an assumption that I leave my children unattended sometimes, and I don't. It's probably not a good joke to make in the United Way, but I just am saying, people always ask me, well, who has your kids? Every time I show up somewhere, where are the kids? Where are the kids? And I want to say, what do you think, they're at home by themselves? And so there's just an assumption that, like, I can't be anywhere or do anything because I have children. It is so deep that I gave birth last year during COVID-19. And I did not tell anyone about my pregnancy professionally until probably my son was born in June. I think I may have told my colleagues in the legislature around May. I might have told them in June. And I had a serious concern about the assumption of me being able to continue to lead, having one child and carrying another. And I did not want my pregnancy to distract from my role as a leader, or for people to make assumptions about me or my future, or what I would be able to handle or do. And I think those women who happen to be mothers tend to have some assumptions made about them, that there are certain jobs that they won't be able to do effectively because of the children that they have to care for. And that is complex, because I think if you ask almost any mother, there is nothing more important in her life to her than her children. And so, yes, naturally, they are going to be a priority, but there's this cool and very magical thing about women. We know how to do multiple things at one time. And so, we know how to put babies on our hips and go to the grocery store and put earbuds in our ear. And as we're shopping and quieting a baby, also fill the cart with groceries. So, that's the cool thing about being a woman, having this magical power to multitask like no other creature on earth can. Yeah, I would say, to sum it up, Dr. Conway Turner, mothers probably have assumptions made about them, that there's certain limits that they have in life because of their children, and that is not fair.
well, that is wonderful, and congratulations. I had no idea you had a new one.
My neighbor said to me yesterday when I left the house, there's that secret baby you had. not a secret baby.
No, all the best. Absolutely
Thank
all
you
the
very
best.
much. Thank you.
And Maureen, a question. How do you balance work, and life? Because you all have really big jobs and are doing so much amazing leadership roles. So how do you balance it?
Well, this to me is this work life thing is really, everything is life. All of it, even your work. I think really you ought to break life into the stuff I love and maybe the stuff I don't love, and look at it that way. And hopefully there's stuff about work, if you're an outside the home working person, that there's stuff about work that you love. Because I know there's a lot about what I do that I love. There's some in that not so great pile, but in the end, it's all life. If I didn't have this life that I have at work, I feel like maybe half a person. So it's a different way of looking at it. I mean, I know the question is how do you deal with, because I had a little one too, and all that goes with that. And I'm flying around the US trying to take care of an aerospace business at the same time. Really tough, but maybe just reframe the conversation instead of that. It's what I love and what I'm not crazy about, and put your energy on the love stuff.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a really terrific conversation. And one of the things that still is in my mind is that during the pandemic, we've seen a lot of women leave the workforce. So we know we have a lot of discussion on how to make sure people have opportunities as we come out of this pandemic, and that we don't lose maybe the small steps forward we have made in the last few years. So there's a lot more work to do. And I'm sure there's no better people than the 4 people that I'm looking at here to have that conversation with us as we're moving forward. But unfortunately, we're out of time. And so we have to really kind of close out this terrific discussion. And I just really want to thank you all for your generosity of being on the panel and the amazing comments that you shared with the audience. And I think you've given us all a lot to think about. And I'm sure over the dinner table this afternoon, there'll be a lot of great discussion. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mary Kate to close us out.
You know what? I'll
Thank you
actually
so much.
jump in. Sorry,
go
Mary Kate.
Oh, sorry, Abby. Oh.
I'm Abby Best, and I am the Giving Communities Coordinator at United Way. And what that essentially means is I work with our groups of supporters to get them more involved in the mission and the work of United Way. So I work very closely with our Women United group. They're an amazing group of women. If you have any interest in joining, I would love to hear from you so that we can keep having the types of conversations that we just had today. Thank you for those of you who stayed with us. I know we're running a few minutes over. I wish we had more time. It's just simply not enough time. These women all had such inspiring, wonderful things to say. And a lot of you actually put amazing questions into the Q&A box. There was no way for us to get to all of them, but we have already asked our panelists if they would be willing to answer some of those in a follow-up email. So you were heard. We love your questions. Thank you so much. We'll do our best to get them all answered. I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about a promotion we have going on right now as part of our Women's History Month activities. We have a special promotion to join Women United. Any gift that you make to become a member is going to have its impact doubled thanks to a matching grant from Independent Health. And that's $1 to $1 matching grant. So if you're interested, my email is on the slide. There's a link. We'll have a follow-up email. There'll also be this recording in the email. And I just want to thank our wonderful sponsors again, but most importantly, our incredible, empowering panelist and moderator. And of course, Mary Kate, our co-chair, for kicking it all off. Okay, guys, thank you so much for your time, and be on the lookout for a follow-up email from us.
Thank you.
Thank you.